The Galactic Academy of Superior Species, or GAS as us unfortunate cadets derisively call it, even the abbreviation is pathetic. But I, Krav Vorax, top graduate of the Zenoruman Battle Academy, find it far from amusing. Senior Commander Vorax, your living quarters have been prepared in accordance with Zenoran specifications. Gravity is calibrated to 2.3 Earth standard, atmospheric composition has been adjusted to match your homeworld's parameters, and the temperature is regulated to 42 degrees Celsius, announced the sickeningly enthusiastic Academy AI. As I stepped through the docking bay, I clicked my mandibles in irritation. That's Senior Commander Vorax, you digital disappointment. And why reference Earth standards? Use proper galactic measurements. The AI paused, likely calculating the extent to which it could be insolent without breaching its programming. Apologies, Senior Commander. Protocol dictates employing common reference points for all cadets. Common reference points? Earth measurements, of course. Ever since those pink, squishy bipeds stumbled onto the galactic stage 73 cycles ago, everything had to be simplified for their limited understanding. I strode down the corridor, my 4 armored legs clicking against the polished floor. Other cadets, representatives of supposedly the most elite warriors from across 17 galactic sectors, scurried out of my path. Good. At least they recognized dominance when they saw it. The Galactic Academy stood as the zenith of military education in the known universe. Established 10,000 cycles ago by the Elder Races, it served to identify and cultivate the next generation of cosmic protectors. Every 30 cycles, each spacefaring species dispatched their absolute best to compete, train, and forge alliances. And here I was, representing the glory of the Zentoran Dominion, 8-time galactic combat champions. My exoskeleton shimmered purple-black under the artificial illumination, polished to a sheen that reflected my impeccable genetic heritage. 15 generations of selective breeding had culminated in me, taller, stronger, faster, and infinitely more intelligent than my already superior species. Hey there, you must be the Zentoran delegate. Wow, you're even more impressive than your file suggested. I turned when I stalked toward the voice while keeping my main eyes focused ahead. Acknowledging lesser beings with full attention conveyed weakness. I'm Academy Director Lazarus Chen, continued the human, extending one of its fleshy appendages in that repulsive greeting ritual they performed. I ignored the gesture. Director? You're a human? Chen retracted his hand, unfazed. His face stretched into what humans called a smile, a terrifying baring of bone that somehow conveyed friendliness rather than aggression. Bizarre creatures. Going on my 4th year now. First human to hold the position. Quite the honor. 4 years? This infantile species had existed in galactic society for a mere 73 cycles, and already they had one of their kind directing the most prestigious military academy in existence? Absurd. The honor belongs to the academy, I said coldly, to have a Zenurian senior commander grace its halls. My people were conquering star systems when yours were still figuring out how to make fire. Chen laughed at my statement of fact. That's probably true. But hey, we're quick learners. That's why the council thought having a human perspective might benefit the academy. Different thinking and all that jazz. Jazz? What did an ancient Earth musical form have to do with military leadership? These humans and their nonsensical idioms simply further evidence their unfitness for advanced galactic society. I clicked my mandibles again, a clear dismissal in any civilized culture. I require orientation to combat facilities. My training regimen cannot wait. The training facility of the Galactic Academy spread before me like a technological utopia: combat rings, zero-gravity chambers, psychic resistance fields, and quantum targeting ranges. All standard equipment for developing proper warriors. Nothing impressive. This facility was upgraded last year, Director Chen prattled on beside me. We incorporated suggestions from all 17 council species to ensure fairness in training. Fairness? I scoffed, the word tasting like sewage in my mouth. A concept invented by the weak to restrain the strong. Chen raised one of those ridiculous strips of hair above his seeing organs. That's an interesting perspective, Commander Vorax. Senior Commander, I corrected, for what felt like the 1000th time, and it is not a perspective. It is a universal truth. Your species simply hasn't existed long enough to comprehend it. I strode toward the main combat ring, where several cadets practiced. My primary eyes immediately identified representatives from the Rexian Confederation, the silicon mines of Bellatrix, and, alas, another human. This one female, with dark fur at the top, her head tied back in what their kind called a ponytail. Ridiculous. They named their grooming choices after the posterior appendages of other Earth animals. That's Cadet Jessica Barnes, Chen said, following my gaze. One of our top performers this year. I couldn't help it, I laughed. The sound echoed like grinding metal across the training floor, causing several cadets to look our way. A human top performer? Next you'll tell me the Academy has accepted sentient algae as combat instructors. Chen's expression didn't change, though his heart rate increased by 12%. My infrared sensors could detect such things easily. You might be surprised, Commander. Humans have consistently ranked in the upper quartile of Academy graduates for the past 30 years. Through what cheating political maneuvering sexual favors I adjusted my posture to reach my full height of 3 meters, towering over the pitiful human. Your kind lacks everything that makes a superior warrior. Your bones break under minimal pressure. Your skin tears from the slightest impact. You possess no natural weapons, no inherent defenses. Your sensory capabilities are laughably limited. Your reaction times are glacial. Your lifespans are criminally brief. I gestured with one armored limb toward the female human, who executed a complex maneuvering drill against a holographic opponent. Look at her. Struggling against a basic Alpha 7 combat simulation. My kind masters that level before we shed our juvenile exoskeletons. The director's face tightened slightly. Perhaps you'd care to demonstrate, Senior Commander? Show our cadets how it's done. The challenge in his voice was unmistakable. Did this soft-skinned mammal truly believe I couldn't outperform their best? The audacity bordered on adorable. With pleasure, I replied, my mandibles clicking rapidly in anticipation. Set the simulator to Omega level. I wouldn't want to waste my talents on anything less. Chen's eyes widened fractionally. Omega level hasn't been successfully completed by any cadet in 17 years. I am no cadet, I reminded him, already removing my ceremonial armor to reveal my combat carapace beneath. I am Zentoran. We were bred for war when your ancestors were still cowering in caves, terrified of their own shadows. As I prepared to demonstrate proper combat technique to these inferior beings, the female human, this Jessica Barnes, finished her simulation. The holoprojectors powered down, and a computerized voice announced, simulation complete. Score, 98.7%. New Academy record for Alpha 7 difficulty. What? Impossible. I swiveled both eye stalks toward the scoreboard. It couldn't be right. No human should be capable of such performance. The female approached, her face glistening with that disgusting moisture humans secrete when exerting themselves. Her breathing was controlled, barely elevated despite the intensive exercise. Curious. Director Chen, she greeted with a respectful nod, then turned those brown eyes toward me. You must be Senior Commander Vorax. It's an honor to meet Zentoria's champion. I bristled at her presumption of addressing me directly. The honor is entirely yours, human, though I question your simulation results. The scoring system must be calibrated to accommodate your species' deficiencies instead of showing proper difference or better yet slinking away and shame the human's mouth curved upward. The system uses standardized Galactic Council metrics, sir. Same scoring for all species. Jessica Director Chen interjected. Commander Vorax has graciously offered to demonstrate Omega-level combat protocols for our benefit. Perhaps you'd like to observe. Omega level. Her eyebrows elevated slightly. That's ambitious. I'd be honored to watch, the patronizing tone as if I, Krav Vorax, 15th generation perfect breeding specimen, needed the approval of some evolutionarily stunted primate. Perhaps you'd prefer a direct comparison, human? I said, mandibles clicking rapidly in challenge.
You against me. Alpha 9 difficulty. Unless you fear embarrassment.
Several nearby cadets stopped their activities. An Arisian whispered something to a Silicon mind, who processed the information with an audible hum. Barnes looked to Chen, who shrugged. It's your call, cadet.
Alpha 9 is above my certification level, she said carefully.
I'm only cleared through Alpha 8.
As expected. I chittered triumphantly. Human limitations manifest yet again.
No matter, I'll demonstrate proper, but I accept, she interrupted, causing my mandibles to freeze mid-click, if the director grants a one-time certification exception. Chen's expression remained neutral, but I detected a slight increase in his breathing rate.
Exception granted, Cadet Barnes.
For training purposes only. The nearby cadets began murmuring excitedly. More gathered around the combat ring, sensing the imminent humiliation of the human female, or perhaps hoping for an upset.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Excellent.
Finally, some entertainment in this dreary excuse for an academy, I announced, striding into the primary combat circle. Computer, prepare Dual Alpha 9 combat simulation, segregated battle spaces, comparative scoring. The human female removed her outer garment, revealing the standard issue academy combat suit beneath. Unlike my natural armor, she required artificial protection, further proof of inferior design. Yet something in her movements caught my attention. A certain efficiency, minimal energy expenditure, precise muscle control.
No matter. Physical optimization could only compensate so much for inherent biological inadequacy. Before we begin, she said, stretching in a manner that seemed oddly familiar, what are the stakes, Commander? Stakes? I hadn't considered this. Zentorans didn't typically wager on foregone conclusions. Yes? What does the winner receive beyond the satisfaction of victory? Her boldness was nearly admirable if pathetically misplaced. What would you suggest, human? Barnes considered for a moment, twisting her neck in a way that would snap a civilized being's spinal column. If I win, you address all humans by name and rank for the remainder of your academy stay. No more human as a dismissive label. The gathered crowd reacted with a mixture of shocked gasps and approving murmurs. A trivial request, given its impossible condition. And if I win, I began. When you win, she corrected, with a sly smile. I paused, surprised by her acknowledgement of reality. When I win, you will publicly announce human evolutionary inferiority at the next Academy Assembly. Director Chen stepped forward. That's not within Academy protocol, Commander. Deal, Barnes interrupted, extending her hand in that primitive greeting gesture. This time I accepted it, gripping her soft appendage with just enough pressure to cause discomfort without breaking bones. To my surprise, she matched my grip strength perfectly. Our eyes locked, all four of mine against her measly two, and something unexpected passed between us, a warrior's recognition, impossible yet undeniable. Prepare for defeat, Jessica Barnes, I said, using her name deliberately to emphasize how temporary the courtesy would be. Likewise, Senior Commander Krav Vorax, she replied, with that infuriating human expression, a smile that somehow suggested both friendship and impending doom. The combat ring hummed to life as the Academy's AI configured our battle parameters. A translucent blue force field split the circular arena down the middle, separate but equal combat spaces allowing for direct performance comparison. Alpha 9 simulation preparing, announced the computer. Difficulty scaling applied according to species-specific parameters. Stop, I commanded. No species-specific scaling, identical parameters. Director Chen stepped forward. Commander Vorax, the scaling exists for a reason, different physiologies. Are you suggesting? I interrupted, clicking my mandibles loudly for emphasis, that the human requires special accommodation to compete with me? How embarrassing for your species. Director Barnes raised her hand. I accept identical parameters, no scaling. Then Chen's face tightened. Cadet Barnes, Alpha 9 without physiological scaling is potentially dangerous for, with respect, sir, she countered. I'm aware of the risks. The gathered crowd had grown larger, with cadets from all 17 species jostling for viewing positions. News of our challenge had spread faster than a quantum transmission. Even several academy instructors had appeared, pretending professional interest while clearly anticipating the spectacle. Very well, Shin conceded. Computer Alpha 9 difficulty, identical parameters, no physiological scaling.
I stretched my forearms, feeling the pleasant crack of my exoskeletal joints. The familiar pre-battle chemical rush flooded my system, enhancing my already superior reflexes and strength. Across the divided arena, the human performed her own preparation rituals, rolling her shoulders, bouncing on her toes, and taking measured breaths. Preparing holographic combat entities, announced the computer. Each competitor will face identical attack patterns from 15 simultaneous opponents utilizing all 17 recognized combat forms. Success metrics: efficiency, damage, avoidance, neutralization, speed, tactical innovation, and endurance. I scoffed. Only 15 opponents, rather generous parameters. The simulation record is 7 opponents neutralized. Chen noted quietly. 7 pathetic. I would dispatch all 15 with time to spare for a victory dance. Not that Zenurans danced, such primitive celebratory behaviors were beneath us. Competitors assume ready positions, instructed the computer. I dropped into traditional Zenurian battle stance, lower limbs spread wide for stability, upper limbs raised in offensive configuration. I stalked, swimming for maximum perceptual coverage across the divide. Barnes assumed a stance I didn't recognize. Not standard academy form, something older, perhaps. Her weight distributed oddly, center of gravity seemingly misaligned. Clearly humans hadn't even mastered basic combat posture. This would be even easier than anticipated. Simulation begins in 3, 2, 1. Commence. Blue light flooded the arena as our holographic opponents materialized, hulking monstrosities combining the most lethal aspects of the galaxy's apex predators. Each stood 3 m tall with multifaceted attack capabilities. Time to demonstrate true superiority. The holographic opponents attack simultaneously, a whirlwind of claws, energy, weapons, and psionic assaults designed to overwhelm even the most seasoned warrior. I grinned inwardly. Finally, a challenge worthy of my talents. My first 3 attackers fell within seconds. A quick mandible strike to the neural cluster of the first, a calculated leg sweep for the second, and a precision energy deflection that caused the third to destroy itself. Textbook Zentoran battle technique, flawless execution. 3 neutralized, 12 remaining, the computer announced. In my section I spared a fraction of attention to glance across the barrier. The human would surely be struggling, perhaps already calling for 5 neutralized, 10 remaining. Came the update from her section 5-5. I blinked, all 4 eyes in astonishment, momentarily distracted from my own combat. The human moved like nothing I'd ever witnessed. Gone was the awkward stance, replaced by a fluid grace that defied explanation. She wasn't fighting the simulation, she was dancing with it, anticipating attacks before they manifested, using the holographic monster's momentum against them, conserving energy with an efficiency that bordered on supernatural. A searing pain across my secondary left appendage snapped my attention back to my own battle. One of the holographic beasts had scored a hit while I was distracted, and unacceptable damage registered to competitor. Vorax efficiency rating decreased by 7%. Furious now, I launched into an aggressive offensive pattern, dispatching 4 more opponents in rapid succession. My movements became a blur, exoskeletal plates clicking as I pushed my genetically perfected body to its limits. 7 neutralized, 8 remaining, updated the computer for my section. 8 neutralized, 7 remaining. Came the simultaneous update from Barnes' section. She was ahead of me. Impossible. I risked another glance and immediately wished I hadn't. The human female had entered what appeared to be some kind of battle trance. Her movements transcended standard combat protocols, incorporating elements from multiple fighting discus plines while adding innovations I'd never encountered in my extensive training. 2 more opponents fell to my precisely calculated attacks. I was operating at 94% efficiency now, a rating that would have made my battle instructors weep with pride. But across the barrier the human had just disappeared. No, she had dropped to the floor, somehow sliding between the legs of 3 attackers, causing them to collide and temporarily disable each other. As they struggled to disentangle, she dispatched them one by one with targeted strikes to vulnerability points I hadn't even noticed in the simulation parameters. 9 neutralized, 6 remaining for me, 12 neutralized, 3 remaining for her. The crowd had gone completely silent, their collective breath held as they witnessed the unfolding impossibility. Even Director Chan stood slack-jawed at the arena's edge. I abandoned all pretense of Zentoran battle decorum, throwing myself into a berserker assault pattern not used since the Quantum Wars 3 centuries ago. My exoskeleton screamed in protest as I pushed beyond safety limitations, but I could not lose to a human. 4 more opponents fell before me in a blur of chat, rage, and precision. 10 seconds later my final opponent crashed to the ground, its holographic form dissipating into blue particles. All opponents neutralized, announced the computer. Final time 4 minutes 17 seconds. Efficiency rating 89.3%. New academy record for Commander Vorax's section. I stood panting, battle chemicals still surging through my system, mandibles clicking in victory. It's a new academy record as expected from Zenators champion. I turned toward the human section, ready to accept her acknowledgement of my superiority, but the crowd wasn't looking at me. All eyes, compound, gelatinous, crystalline, and mammalian alike, were fixed on Barnes' section, where she stood calmly in the center, not even breathing hard. All opponents neutralized, the computer had announced while I was celebrating. Final time 2 minutes 46 seconds.
Sufficiency rating 97.8%. New all-time Academy record for Cadet Barnes section 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Nearly half my time. An efficiency rating that exceeded even legendary performances from the Academy's 1,000-year archives. My mandibles fell slack, my eye stalks drooped, my exoskeletal plates seemed to wilt against my suddenly frail-feeling body. The human turned toward me, and in that moment, I saw something in her eyes that shattered my worldview more completely than her impossible victory. Not triumph, not mockery, respect. Good match, Senior Commander Vorax, she said, bowing slightly in the tradition of her primitive world. And then the crowd erupted, their collective roar nearly shaking the Academy foundations. The cadets rushed into the arena, lifting the human onto their shoulders while chanting her name. I had not just been defeated, I had been utterly, completely, and publicly humiliated. The celebration continued around me as I retreated to the edge of the combat arena. My exoskeleton felt unbearably heavy, each step requiring conscious effort. 15 generations of selective breeding, thousands of hours of elite training, the pride of the Zentoran Dominion, all rendered meaningless in less than 3 minutes by a species that had barely mastered interstellar travel. Impressive performance, Commander, Director Chen said, materializing beside me with infuriating calmness. Breaking the previous record is no small achievement. Was he mocking me? My secondary heart began pumping faster, flooding my system with combat chemicals again. I was operating below optimal capacity, I muttered, knowing the excuse sounded pathetic even to my own audio receptors. Chen nodded thoughtfully. We all have off days. Though I'm curious, what you found most surprising about Cadet Barnes' performance? The question caught me off guard. What hadn't been surprising? Her efficiency, I finally admitted. Humans are supposed to be wasteful creatures, excessive movement, emotional decision-making, biological limitations. Yet she outperformed a genetically optimized warrior from an ancient martial species. Chen observed, without judgment. Curious, isn't it? Dead across the room, Barnes was speaking with several classmates, her manner humbled despite her unprecedented achievement. No victory dance, no trumpeting of superiority, just quiet acknowledgement. And was she describing her techniques to Arisian cadets, sharing her tactical innovations freely? How long has she trained? I asked, surprising myself with the question. Jessica, about 7 years. Started late by most standards. 7 years. 7 Zenoruman warriors began combat training during embryonic development. Neural pathways specifically formed to optimize battle reflexes before birth. That's impossible, I stated flatly. No species masters Alpha 9 protocols in 7 years. Chen's mouth formed that disconcerting human smile again. Here's the thing about humans, Commander, we didn't evolve as the strongest, fastest, or most naturally armed species on our planet. We were by most measures remarkably average. Then how? Adaptation, Chen interrupted. Humans survived because we adapted faster than anything else on Earth, not over evolutionary timescales but within single lifetimes, within moments. Sometimes I watched as Barnes demonstrated a particular movement to her fellow cadets, her form perfect yet somehow uniquely human. Your species evolved specific adaptations, Chen continued. Exoskeletons, natural weapons, enhanced senses optimized for certain environments and scenarios, perfected through breeding programs, superior design. I insisted, though the conviction in my voice had faded. Chen shook his head. Specialized design, excellent wind conditions, match your specifications, but humans were generalists, the universe's ultimate blank slate. We don't excel at anything naturally, which means we can learn to excel at everything. The realization hit me like a quantum torpedo. Humans weren't inferior, they were terrifyingly fundamentally different. My species had spent millennia refining our natural strengths. Humans simply identified what strengths they needed, then acquired them like some kind of biological plagiarist. She analyzed my fighting style while competing, I said, suddenly the truth dawning on me. She was learning from me even as we fought. Chen's smile widened. Now you're starting to understand why humans went from planetary confinement to Galactic Council membership in record time. Later that night cycle, I sat alone in my quarters staring at the ceiling. The Academy's environmental systems had faithfully recreated Zentoran atmospheric conditions, but for some reason the air felt stifling. After a moment's hesitation, I adjusted the settings to standard Galactic mix. The cooler, lighter air filled my respiratory chambers, uncomfortable yet somehow clarifying. A notification chimed on my personal terminal, a message from my Dominion superiors, no doubt demanding an explanation for today's unfortunate incident, as they would diplomatically call my humiliation. That news traveled faster than light in military circles, but it
Wasn't from the Dominion, it was from Barnes. Senior Commander Vorax, I wanted to thank you for the match today. Your technique in deflecting the third opponent's energy blast was remarkable. Would you be willing to demonstrate it during tomorrow's tactical session? Respectfully, Cadet Jessica Barnes. I stared at the message, mandibles working soundlessly. She was thanking me, asking for instruction after defeating me so thoroughly. Was this some elaborate human mockery? I didn't understand. My claws hovered over the reply function. Proper Zenoruman protocol dictated ignoring such presumptuous communication from a lesser-ranked individual, but something stopped me. That same something that had adjusted my quarters atmosphere. Curiosity perhaps, or something more troubling. Cadet Barnes, I will demonstrate the technique at 0800 tomorrow. Bring protective gear. Zentoran deflection methods can be hazardous to soft-tissued species. The Commander Vorax. I sent the reply before I could reconsider, then immediately regretted it. What was I doing fraternizing with the enemy? Except she wasn't an enemy, she was a fellow cadet, one who had bested me fairly. The thought sent a shudder through my exoskeleton. If this human female could defeat me after only 7 years of training, what might she accomplish in 20 and 50? The average human lifespan would give her another century of improvement. The implications were disturbing.